And everyone, it's Jane here for Student Pages. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent once again. Today we are joined by Johnny Ray Gill. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, man. Pretty good.
You've got an incredible role, obviously, in the Amazon series Cross. You are a sociopathic ex-cop, Bobby Trey. If you could just tell us a little bit about that role, do you see any similarities between yourself and the character? Obviously, a bit of a stretch there, but I mean, yeah, what's it like playing a character like that?
It's a great challenge. It's a great challenge. No similarities, of course, but it was a great opportunity to match things that I've studied in historical texts and texts about capitalism to a character, somebody that's addicted to money and to power. And so to take the teeth of capitalism and the violence of capitalism and to infuse it metaphorically into a character was, like I said, a great challenge, but then also something that, needs to be done so people can have a more in-depth conversation about police, their role in our communities, and the trauma that they endure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cross is now on its second season, which we're about to receive. For the second season, then obviously, I'm fairly sure you'll have had some sort of idea that you might be coming back if that, got greenlit. But for the second season specifically, what sort of drew you to the storyline? What made you want to come back?
To be able to work with the rest of the cast again, I think it's good. We got some new faces. I don't want to reveal no names so people can be excited about what we got coming on February 11th. But I will say some Spanish might be spoken. There's some new locales, so it's going to be new thrills and even more in depth than it was the first season. So when when you're a part of a group that wants to take it to the next level, that's always a reason to want to come back. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, honestly, like obviously the talent in Cross is absolutely huge. So it's like, yeah, I can imagine to be a part of that. That's going to be so awesome. So, look, we'll get back to Cross later, but I do want to ask, when you're going for an acting role, just generally, are there any sort of characters that you're typically drawn to, or do you kind of like to, spread yourself out as much as you can, go for anything?
I'm up for anything. There's no rules, there's no regulations. Only thing for me is that it's a great story. And as a black person, too often we are not given the opportunity to tell great stories. Too often we are seen through a very one-dimensional lens. So for me, I'm just looking for multidimensionality. I'm looking for profundo. I want depth, and I want to, explore the depth and breadth of the human condition as a human being. So, I like to run the gamut, whether that's playing a sociopath, that's playing an oceanographer or an archaeologist or a shoemaker or a chemist. I want to be able to do all those things. So, and I think that's the power of storytelling. That's why every culture on the planet has some version of storytelling so that we could, see ourselves, but then also see the possibilities. So, that's what I'm looking for to be able to see myself and then also to see the possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that explains why, like you said, you went for a character like Bobby, who's so out there as a character. You know what I mean? It's like that really
Yeah.
is something to sink your teeth into. So I mean, yeah, that makes so much sense. So yeah, I mean, if we're taking a few steps back, then can you just tell us a little bit about how you sort of initially got into acting, and what steps did you have to take to get to the point where you are now?
I was in film school at Temple and at USC, and at the same time, I was a spoken word poet. And a professor saw me performing at a club in Philly and asked me to, she suggested that I should audition for Jitney by August Wilson, and it was my first foray into formal theater. I had done some improv stuff before, while I was growing up in Portland, but nothing official. And then you realize you kind of got some talent, and then you realize, the words is a way to examine who you are. It becomes therapy in addition to a vocation, and that's how things started, man. So poetry got me into acting.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, what drew you to poetry in the first place? Because that's, especially for like spoken word poetry, it's like that's really interesting. How did that start?
Yeah, I was in a rites of passage program, the largest African-based rites of passage program west of the Mississippi here in the United States. For all my British folks, Portland, Oregon is on the west coast above California. And when I was in middle school and prep for that program, we went to go see a movie called Slam. At the time, it was a Sundance film. It had Saul Williams in it. Saul Williams was Justin Centers. He's one of my favorite poets, one of my favorite artists. And he did a poem called Shaklack Clack in that joint. I remember the first couple bars are, if I could stand in the spot where truth echoes, I would stand there and whisper memories of my children's future. I will let their future dwell in my past so that I might live a brighter now. And then there was another scene where he was about to get beat up, like in a, in a prison yard. And right as it's about to happen, right as he's about to get shanked, he goes into this poem, and it's so dope. Everybody freezes, and he walks off, and one of the dudes goes, "I just forgot what I was just thinking," and I was like, I want to be able to do that. And so that
Mhm.
movie got me writing, and then poetry. I've always been a writer, but that's what got my foray started in poetry.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's such a powerful thing, isn't it? You know, it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, I totally see it because poetry really does allow you to sort of get across. I don't know, like I've said it about music as well, but I think there's some overlap there in that there's just a way of getting things across through artistic mediums that you can't quite by just speaking. You know, I think again,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
sure
yeah.
you'll agree, it's about the way it's said.
Yeah, poetry also too is the I think one of the hardest written mediums to be commodified or commercialized. Like for example, you don't go to a poetry slam, you don't open a poetry book and read a poem about hoes. That don't happen.
Yeah.
That might happen in music because it's easier to get you invested in the rhythm and stuff. But
Hmm.
poetry, people reach for poetry oftentimes when they don't know that they need it, when their mother passes or their heart is broken. They're trying to figure out what's going on in their life. Racism in America, colonialism in India and Africa. That poetry taps into those real human roots, and I think that those real human roots and exploration in poetry really do lend themselves to acting, because as an actor, I think you'll be very severely limited if you don't know history, if you don't have access to those roots, because that's how you create characters. At least for me. So, for somebody like Bobby Trey, I'm not. It's not generally evil.
Yeah.
It's connected to something real. Like it's connected to the psychosis of capitalism. Like to chop down. Like we breathe air, right? But capitalism
Hmm.
will have us chop all the trees down for a profit,
Yeah.
and then we can't breathe. That's psychosis, right? So now you're actually, pulling from a real place as opposed to anything that happens. Your imagination has actual water to drink, and then you can breathe from that place. So that's why I think poetry and acting are connected, and I think that's why it was a natural shift in evolution.
Yeah, no, heavy hitting stuff. You're so right as well. Yeah, it really is a massively transferable skill. And again, it's like, yeah, no, just massive hats off for being able to make that transition, I guess. So another project you've got going on is Gore Verbinski's Cattywampus. That's coming out, well, that's, making its way out. So can you tell us anything about the character that you play in that? And can you sort of give us a bit of an insight to that project and how you got involved?
Man, all I can say is I love working with Gore Verbinski. He's a legend with all the things that he's done. But other than that, I gotta let y'all wait on that one because yeah, I gotta let y'all wait on that one.
NDAs are out there, I'm guessing.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, 100%. But as I say, that's going to be so awesome because obviously he's an Oscar winner. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. It
that
was one of the highlights of my
incredible
career
talent.
working with him. So hopefully we get a chance to rock out again at some point soon.
Yeah. Right. We'll have to wait and see on that one. So we're going to pivot a little bit because we always want to talk about this with social media. What's sort of your take on that? Because to sort of make it in the industry, there's always this pressure to sort of have a social presence and things. How do you find social media? It's like, are you comfortable being on it, or do you sort of see it as one of those necessary evils?
I'm comfortable being on it, but it has no bearing on my career. I don't know if I can curse, but I don't really give two damns about it. One of those things. I think you as an artist have to decide what kind of artist you want to be, and just because you're doing sketches on Instagram or TikTok, don't mean you're gonna be starring in Saving Private Ryan. That's not how that works.
True.
So
Yeah. No,
I
because
think
it's different now.
yeah, it's a different. It requires different skills. Just because you can do comedy on social media, don't mean you can rock a crowd at a comedy club. It's two completely different skills. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times people are caught up in trying to be seen as opposed to trying to be craftsmen and women. So I think
Yeah.
you should
No,
focus
no,
on
you're very right.
craftsmanship. You should focus on craftsmanship, not monetization. Because
Mhm.
the craftsmanship is how you get the long money. When my grandma, God bless her soul, when we played dominoes, she would always say, all money ain't good money. Because sometimes you got to skip the five so you can get to 15 and then preserve domino. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm.
I think with social media, a lot of people is going for nickels when, in 5 years or 6 years, they might be getting 10 and 15. So, I ain't never bought followers. I know people do all that kind of stuff because they think, it's going to have some kind of bearing. But at the end of the day, I think you need to focus on craftsmanship and what kind of artist you want to be because the 9 times out of 10, the people's in Skittles commercials ain't the same people that's in Saving Private Ryan. That's it's two different lanes. So if you're cultivating yourself and building yourself up for the former, you might not be available for the latter.
Yeah. No, 100%, because people trap themselves in certain categories these days, don't they? And that it's like, obviously social media you can use to sort of progress a career, but if you get too much of a following, it's almost like you're boxing yourself in. It's like people are just going to know you and see you as this content creator, whatever that means. When actually
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, this isn't what I wanted to do, but I'm stuck now.
Yeah, I mean, also too, you got to realize, Hollywood and these respective industries can, box you in as well. So I just think you just have to have a strategy, regardless of how you use social media, whether you use it for fun, whether you use it for information, whether you use it to educate yourself about the planet. It's a lot of things that it can be used, for positively. But as far as becoming an artist, I think the following comes organically, man. I really do. I think people, because this is a microwave culture, people be trying to microwave stuff, and I think becoming Nina Simone is that's you can't microwave that. You don't microwave
Yeah.
Basquiat. You don't microwave Meryl Streep. You know that's not something that normally happens overnight. It's something that's built brick by brick through a combination of a bunch of places of study. And I don't think I'm gonna get on Instagram and I don't know, put my audition on there and somebody's gonna see me. That's not how this thing works. 9.9
Yeah.
times out of 10.
No, I mean, I've never heard the sentence "you don't microwave Meryl Streep," but it honestly makes so much sense. It's like, no, you're absolutely like bang on the nail with that. Yeah, I mean, as I say, it's interesting, isn't it? Because for a bit of a wider question, then, just generally in like the acting industry and Hollywood and things, what's something that you'd like to see change or keep going moving forward? Is there anything that you've picked up on that you're like that could use tweaking?
I just hope we continue moving towards Renaissance. And what I mean by that is like I think we need stories that are more original. I think we need stories that, explore different worlds. And I don't mean like space with aliens and all that. There's so many stories about, different people, different situations that we could be tackling and get back to the grit nature of storytelling. I think way too much of Hollywood is I put it like this. I think Hollywood's actually leaving a lot of money on the table because they have a certain algorithm that says people want to see this kind of movie, and a lot of times it's not how it pans out, but they just don't write those articles about those movies. They don't come out and say, oh, yeah, by the way, this movie we thought was going to be really good and was going to make a lot of money. It didn't make no money opening weekend. They don't write that in the Hollywood Reporter. You know what I'm saying? They leave that out. But you have originals that come out like Sinners. No one expects, and then boom. You got Get Out. No one expects, and then boom. Parasite comes out. No one expects. A movie about capitalism, and it's not in English. All the things, all Asian cast, all these things that apparently won't work, and then boom, international hit. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so I think we
No.
need more of that. I think we need more of that across cultures and just more innovative storytelling. I think people are getting tired of seeing the same thing over and over again.
Absolutely. And I think what's saddest about it as well is that like it's not as if these stories aren't being curated. It's not as if people aren't coming up with these stories. It's that the studios aren't putting the money into it. And if they are
Yeah,
to get it produced, they then don't promote it at all. It's
yeah,
mind-boggling. A lot of the stuff that's done really well recently is because of word of mouth. It's because people have seen it and
hmm
said this is great. It's like, why are we funneling so much money into like tax write-offs when there's
yeah,
these incredible stories being made that are getting no attention? It baffles me.
yeah. It's I think we've removed the idea that going to the cinema is like going to the museum. You know, nobody in their right mind would ever say eliminate all the museums because we have a subconscious understanding that they're important and they move, society forward. They give you an opportunity to understand. And I think that our cinema used to feel that way. It used to feel like, oh, when I go to the movies, I'm going to have an experience. I'm going to be immersed in a different world, a new culture, etc. And so, with some of the way that, Hollywood has been going, I think we've removed a little of that, the importance of storytelling. And, storytelling is a fundamental part of the human experience, man. We ain't never gonna get rid of books. We ain't never going, and so books are akin to great films. You know what I'm saying? I can't.
Yeah,
I don't know where I would be without Malcolm X and Bamboozled and Saving Private Ryan, and I can just go down uh, Fruitvale Station. I can go down Succession. I can go down the list. Across these projects that show us different things and require things from us as an audience. And so hopefully, we continue, down that path, and allow people to rock out and tell the much needed stories that we need told.
no, absolutely, yeah. I mean, we can only hope, you know. It's like time will tell on that one. But I mean, whenever you get cast for a role, then or sort of go to an audition, there's obviously I expect nerves and a little bit of hesitancy from everyone. Maybe when you're getting started, maybe even now. How do you overcome those feelings of like doubt and sort of this second guessing? It's like how do you get past that?
I don't think anything. I mean, I think you're always nervous. You're nervous about anything worth doing. Usually, it's just like if you go on a first date. If she's beautiful, you're gonna have to be a little nervous, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So I think you got to lean into it. I think you got to lean into the nerves. Don't run from them. Dive into them like a swimming pool, man, like an ocean. And then I think that's where it's like jumping off a cliff. You're afraid at the beginning, but then that's where you start flying. Yeah, so I lean into it, and also too, I lean into the preparation. The more prepared you are, the better you'll handle any unexpected things that happen in an audition, any unexpected ways your body might feel. So I break it down, man. Like what hand am I holding the sides in? What's happening on? Like I go, it's like a symphony, man. Like a symphony. So the more you lean in, I think the more prepared you'll be to be able to handle the peaks and valleys of auditioning, because it's a separate skill than actually doing the job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's actually kind of channeling a piece of advice my dad gave me recently because, like, whenever I do anything new, like I have all these like reactions to it that aren't like mental. I just literally like freeze up and stuff. And he told me he was like, "Look, it's like the reason you're getting those reactions because evidently you care, and that's a good quality." And it's like, well, damn,
Yeah,
I never really considered that. But yeah, no, 100%. It's like I think, like you say, we need to lean into these things because what else can we do? Is like you can't always back out, and if you can, you're just
yeah.
going to regret it in the end.
Also, too, I think it's just about taking space and having the
Mm,
understanding that you're there to show something. And as much as you're auditioning for them, they're auditioning for you. Some people you don't want to work with, and you can find that out in the audition. So not approaching the situation from a poverty mindset or a scarcity mindset. For example, you could mess up in a scene, and somebody worth they salt will say, "Yo, you know what? I messed up. Let me start over again." You know what I mean? And sometimes it takes bravery to be like, let me go back. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with that. You see what I'm saying? Even the best athletes have been like, hold on, let me shoot that free throw one more time. But it's the confidence to ask for that, second chance or that second take. Sometimes we're on set. I know I've done it many times. They'll say, check the gate, we moving on. I'll say, yeah, 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 yeah. Let me get one more. Let me get one more. And if you know what I'm saying, and then you go rock it.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? So I
yeah,
just think you just have to have the confidence to move how you want to move in the space, and then people will respect you regardless of how it goes.
yeah. It's about allowing ourselves to have that human error. We can't pretend we don't
Yeah,
have it, and I think it's foolish to pretend that we don't. No, you're absolutely spot on with that. So, I mean, when you were getting started out, and also now, were there any actors that you've sort of looked at and said, that's kind of what that's kind of what I'm aiming for there? Obviously, you've made your own path and you are your own
yeah,
actor, but are there any that you sort of went, I like that?
yeah. Nobody really like this dude right now, but it's a true story. When I was at Temple, I went to Temple University. We had a movie night, and we watched a movie called Seven. It's one of my
Mm,
favorite films. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, and Kevin Spacey does a monologue in a car at the end about the seven deadly sins. And I remember watching it again, just like that slam moment with Saul Williams, and I said, "Yo, I want to be able to do that." And that's
mm,
when I said, "Yo." And then after him, after that monologue, then it was Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks has been a totem. I call them faraway mentors, people I've never met, but who have informed, my sentiments as an actor. Every role he's done, I've sat back and said, "Man, I wish I could do that." I want to do that from the Terminal to Castaway to Road to Perdition to Forrest Gump. I love the way he attacks character. Captain Phillips, I can go down the list of his whole career. Philadelphia. Then you got, I love Mahershala Ali. I think he has a quiet grace to him. He's like I think him and Tom Hanks's acting styles are very similar because they're not showy. They're very graceful, almost like ballerinas. You know what I mean? So I love him. Jeffrey Wright is one of my favorite
Mm.
actors. He's so transformative. I don't even think he gets the credit he deserves. Yeah, James Earl Jones. James
Legend.
Earl Jones, yeah, legend. On my Instagram page, there's a scene from the original production of Fences with Courtney Vance, and that scene, man, it's a masterclass. So
Mm.
there's so many folks that I've watched and studied, and try to put their take into my take and try to be able to craft my own path. And I just kind of look at it like athletes. LeBron is a student of the game, and because he's a student of the game, he can say, "Oh, this game I'm gonna play like Oscar Robertson. Oh wait, this game I gotta score like Jordan. Oh wait, this game I gotta do Carmelo. Oh wait, this game I gotta
Mm.
rebound like Dennis Rodman." And so for me, I approach the craft the same way because you never know what your role is gonna necessarily be on the call sheet, how much time you're gonna get. But you might say, okay, I'm not scoring this movie. I got to get rebounds. I'm on my Joe Pesci in Lethal Weapon. I got to get my Joe Pesci on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
there's so many beautiful actors. I remember there's a film called Inside Man where Clive Owen is basically doing mask work the entire film. You know what I mean? So there's so many projects that have come out where you're just like, oh, okay, Andy Serkis as Schmiegel, man. Like it's so much, it's
Yeah.
so many, so much great stuff that that has inspired me. So them is just ones off the dome right now, but yeah, so many.
You got some great names in there. I got to say though, I can't help but hear Mahershala Ali's name at the minute and get mad because we spoke earlier about these stories that need to be told. Surely one of the easiest stories to tell is a badass guy who beats up vampires and they still can't make it, right? I feel so bad for the guy at the minute. How can they not get a script down? I actually don't get the
I
Blade
don't know,
situation at
man.
all.
I don't know. I hope he's able to do it. He's a fantastic performer. He's been from Moonlight to so much really great stuff. So yeah, hopefully he's able to get it done.
Yeah, no, total side tangent. As I say, I get so angry every time I remember that that's going on. Anyway, at the minute, like in the wider film and TV industry, what do you think is sort of making it? What kind of projects do you think are doing well, and why do you think they're doing the way they are?
I just look at Sinners, man. It's a movie
Mm.
that's about vampires, but not really about vampires. It's about race in America. It's about poverty in America. The movie's about history. Those characters are filled with so much going back to Scotland and Ireland and the South and Africa and Afro Caribbean cultures, etc. It's about music. It's this. That movie brought back blues. People listening to Mississippi Delta blues after that movie, man.
Mm.
I just think I Sinners is I think is a guiding light, man. It's a reason it went out and made all that money. It's a reason why people were running to watch it in 70 millimeter. I think we only got 8 of them theaters in the country, and they were sold out for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I
Mm.
think films like that are the North Star at this point. I think filmmakers and artists need to be ambitious, man, and then do your research. I think that's some of the I do think that's one of the Achilles heels of a lot of projects. They'll want to talk about climate change or something, or race in America or whatever, and they'll half-ass it. Because the material makes them uncomfortable or makes them nervous because there's some accountability that might have to take place. But instead of, you know, meeting that accountability square on, you cut that scene. You know what I mean? And in
Mm.
Sinners, ain't what no scenes cut. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they went for it, and you can feel that specificity in the music. You can feel it in the quiet moments of the project. It's you can feel it in the cinematography. You can feel it in the air in the theater when people are watching the movie. You know what I mean? So I just think we need more of that, man. We need more big ideas and more big swings and more depth and breadth and more research for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, I got two pretty big open-ended questions for you to finish things off. First of all, if you could like pluck a role out of the sky, what would the dream role or set look like to you? What would you really want to go for if you could choose anything?
I want to play Spawn.
Nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to play Spawn. I've had dreams about playing that character. I think Spawn as a comic is ahead of his time. I mean, he's living in the alley amongst the unhoused, and we have an unhoused epidemic here in the United States, right? He's an anti-hero, a former military, former assassin, and then he has to pay for those sins. His wife is with his best friend. Like I think that project examines black spirituality and black Christianity in a way that, like I said, if you really go for it, you could say some very powerful things. And to play a black man that's in cahoots, not in cahoots, probably the wrong word, but he made a deal with the devil. He was burned alive, and like I said, to be living in that purgatory and to find the goodness in that purgatory, I think that's a powerful role, and it's something I would do a lot with. We would be on the Oscar stage. I get a chance to play that role.
No, that's a great pick. Honestly, it's like, yeah, I mean, what a character. Again, for an actor like yourself who wants to, explore multifaceted roles, it really can't get any
Yeah,
more perfect there. Yeah, no,
yeah,
100%. So, I mean, look, to finish things off, one massive last question then. Out of
sure.
everything that you've done in your entire career so far, if you had to pick one thing, what would you say is the thing that you're proudest of what you've done so far?
I'm proud of my perseverance. Proud of my perseverance. In this game, you hear a lot of no's, and so you have to have the internal fortitude to keep going. I always say that other people's belief, my dreams are not based on other people's belief. So, and I think that you have to understand that you kind of need to be your own steam engine from time to time. You feel me? So I'm most proud of the perseverance because it's easy to quit, and I mean quit like sometimes you need to quit because sometimes you know what I'm saying, like you think you're gonna be a chef and you're not. You can't cook, man. So I think you have to
Yeah,
have self awareness. I think self awareness is very important and very much lacking. But if you are on your right path, if you are, you know, um, evaluating your vocation, then you need to realize that your dreams are not based on the opinions and the thoughts and the belief of others. You know what I mean? Because once you
yeah,
start winning, they're gonna come around. They're gonna come around and say, "Oh man, we always knew." Oh, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you
yeah. Now
did.
you did. Like, yeah,
So yeah, perseverance, man. Perseverance and study and research, man. Because when you play in a role, that's the vacation. That's the vacation.
yeah, no, absolutely. I gotta say, I love it when I ask this question and people pick like a personal aspect rather than like a role or something. Because again, obviously, you can be proud of a role, and especially if you've had like a standout one. But yeah, I think just having those qualities that you're proud of and sort of being able to say, this isn't something I do, this is something I am. I think that's like a
Yeah.
massive. That is really, really cool when you're able to accept that about yourself. So, I mean, yeah, amazing answer there. So, I mean, Johnny, look, thank you ever so much for answering my questions today. Honestly, it's been an incredible chat. I wish you all the best of luck with everything that's going on at the
Thank you.
minute. Obviously, all the projects we can't talk about at the minute. Hopefully, we'll get to talk about at a later date. But I mean, yeah, thank you so much for coming on.